Ooh, what's up guys? So I wasn't sure if I really wanted to make this video. I don't really have any relationship actually with Tfue. The one time I've seen him in person is when I visited the headquarters in Hollywood. Like one of the first times, and I saw him, he was actually playing. That might have actually been the weekend that Ricky got the setups. I don't know, but they had some setups in there in the headquarters and they were playing. I just wanted to give you my perspective on things. I know you guys have heard from FaZe, the org itself, and from Ricky, and Apex did a video as well, and people have been tweeting stuff out. But I just felt like it would be, I don't know, a good idea that you hear something from somebody else who's been around for a while but is not in the front of everything in terms of like the house and stuff like that, kind of like an outside perspective but still a FaZe perspective. And because I've known Ricky for a while and I've been involved in FaZe since before any management team has been involved. I've been, you know, close with Tommy and the guys since before all that, since before the New York house. First found out about FaZe when the FaZe 2 montage was like uploaded, because I was with Tommy when he uploaded it and I had no idea what FaZe was at the time. I was with Tommy when he picked up Ricky for the first time because Ricky was going to move in with Tommy in Haverhill in our hometown together. Ricky had the FaZe 5 idea. He was leaving SOAR and joining FaZe. Also, I lived in the New York house when the guys moved to New York. Originally it was me, Norden, Apex, Ricky, and Tommy, and Tico as well. I was the one who drove the U-Haul. Me and Cheo ended up driving everything. I was the one who drove the U-Haul from Haverhill and from Tommy's stuff, I think Ricky's stuff as well, at least what was in the Haverhill apartment, to the house in New York. I'm just saying this so you get an idea of what I was present for. I just wanted to talk about and shed some light on why Ricky is so emotional. See, for me, I was always so confused by Ricky that he never uploaded a lot on his channel. He was always trying to get other people to upload or helping other people with uploading and stuff like that, and working behind the scenes with the FaZe 5 and just connecting with members and like ideas and direction and stuff like that for FaZe and videos and what he thought. He never really relied or pushed himself or really relied or focused on his own brand. Out of everyone in the house, he was the only person that really wasn't focusing on his own brand. The only thing he would use is like Snapchat. The reason I'm saying that is because when things in FaZe were kind of like in a roller coaster, whether it be the channel or management or whatever, it would affect Ricky the most in a sense, because if the organization is having trouble as a whole, then that really would affect Ricky, because that's what he was really focusing on and that's where most of his work was being done. Whereas the other guys had their own channels and they had their own platforms and they had their own fan base that they would interact with, and you know, other income and stuff like that. Everyone cared about FaZe. Obviously Tommy and everyone, you know, were all in on FaZe, but it was always just a different kind of pressure for Ricky because he didn't push his own platform. I was so happy to see the whole, you know, Clout Gang and the Clout House and his channel blow up and stuff like that, because I knew it took a lot of pressure off him, because you know you have something else that can assist you with whatever you want to do with your own goals. I'm not sure if you guys remember, there was a time where he had moved back home, wasn't really involved in FaZe, wasn't talking with the guys and stuff like that. And on that note, I'm not going to go into detail because I don't even know all the detail, to be honest, but what people don't understand, even with this TV situation, things that are just normal, like issues between people or groups of friends, get escalated when it comes to working with each other and becomes business, because discussions that you may have with your friends where you may disagree on something or have a different point of view, that gets escalated because it's representing a brand or an organization or people's livelihood. So when you have like discussions and meetings and you're talking about stuff, it's very easy for things to get heated. And I'm someone who comes from a completely outside point of view. I didn't grow up in the COD community. I didn't grow up, you know, gaming with these guys and stuff like that. I started to game with them as I became friends with them and moved into the FaZe house. But I was a true outside perspective. I run a martial arts school with my dad, and I always said that I was really impressed with how these guys were able to try to mix their personalities. You know how hard it is to live with somebody that you're friends with only online, and then, you know, living situations are so difficult. Then on top of that, you're gonna try to run an organization together. So despite the ups and downs that FaZe might have had within itself, or with the previous management team that you might be hearing about and stuff like that, the core group of guys, the FaZe members, like truly love FaZe. There's a super original like feeling towards FaZe. This connection that they feel like FaZe is the reason that they have this platform. FaZe is the reason that, you know, because they started out as, you know, the COD gamers for the most part. The newer generation, which I'm gonna get to, the Fortnite players and stuff, have a different kind of connection with FaZe. Again, I'm not there, I have no connection, but I'm from the outside in, I'm not too surprised that Tfue would just allow these things to be said about FaZe, to allow the brand to be tarnished. Like in his apology video, he was like, I didn't want that stuff to be in there, so that's all settled. Like, what do you mean? You're just gonna say I didn't want that to be in there and that's settled? Your lawyer's gonna discuss with you what you want in there. So it seemed like maybe, I don't know if this is true, but after the backlash, then he wanted to take that stuff out. When I found out about FaZe, it was huge. But now it's on like a whole nother level. And for me, FaZe has always like been these group of guys trying to figure it out, trying to, you know, create this movement, and a lot of it just trial and error and trying to figure things out. So for Tfue to just say that FaZe is trying to, you know, take advantage of these members and stuff like that, I was like, wait a second, this makes no sense. Like there must be a misunderstanding. Maybe something went wrong, but there was no way that FaZe and these guys, their intention is to mess with these guys, because they are those guys. Like the FaZe members are the gamers who grew up gaming, who are looking for opportunities to change the world. These are the guys who made, it's not like FaZe was built by like just these, you know, giant investors and these people, and they, you know, and then they invested in guys like Ricky and Tommy and Apex and Norton and everybody else. It was built by those guys. I don't even need to go into the details of like the contract thing and stuff like that. I will just say this. When I first saw the lawsuit, like the image of it and the wording and stuff, I thought that FaZe had a bunch of Tfue's money. They do direct a lot of the earnings. So the way that I viewed it was that maybe that Tfue was making so much money that they didn't pay him or something. So when I found out that FaZe hasn't taken on any of that money, I was shocked. That like, wait a second, only $60,000? I could imagine what Tfue's numbers are. He's got a better deal than all the FaZe members, because no one else has that kind of split in terms of what they actually took. Now, yes, I understand the sense of, well, they can take it at any time. Now that would make sense if FaZe didn't care about their brand and if they weren't trying to renegotiate and change that deal. But the idea that they would try to force Tfue to stay on that contract and then take all the money, so for example, if he didn't re-sign after his 3 years were up, they would just, you know, threaten to take all the money. FaZe is very aware of brand awareness, and they would know exactly what it would do. That it's not like the NFL where everyone, you know, doesn't like the owner aspect and like the league, and how like players have to sit out and ask for more money and everyone just doesn't care, then they watch the league still. They're still gonna watch the NFL, they're still gonna watch the players or whatever. It's not like that in esports. Like if FaZe did that, it would be the end of FaZe. They would get destroyed. It would be like organizational suicide to even consider, no, we're gonna take 80% of your earnings now. It's pretty much, or do whatever. That makes zero sense whatsoever. I'm telling you right now, if FaZe did that, I would leave FaZe. Like, people would be so upset with FaZe. Like, people would leave FaZe. They just decided, you know what? We're just gonna turn around at any point and just collect all your money and say, well, you signed the contract. To me, it became clear that Tfue was just taking his opportunity to leave FaZe and get out of having to represent FaZe so that he can find deals with other organizations and other brands and probably explore those and make a lot of money, which is all good and dandy. I'm not trying to get in the way of anyone, you know, securing the bag or anything like that. But man, I didn't even know the extent of Ricky and Tfue's relationship. And I didn't know the extent in which Ricky had helped him. And I had no idea of the growth that he saw right after joining FaZe. I don't know, it's just overall disappointing, and it's sad to see that FaZe is being seen as like this evil org. Like people look at, you know, big companies or, you know, these big brands that take advantage of employees, or there's no way that every member's feeling between them and FaZe has been always great, because that's like dealing with any organization that's new, and this whole thing is with esports and stuff like that is all new. But to slander a brand that like literally helped pave the way for someone like Turner. FaZe is like a brand that is helped pioneer esports, and it was built by the kids who were playing the games. It was built by these people who just grew up playing video games and didn't want to go into the corporate world or work in anything else. That I know this was obviously tough for Ricky, because Ricky brought in FaZe 5, and that was obviously huge for FaZe. And he takes pride in creating these cool projects and these cool collaborations. You see him, he's always bringing in people. I'm assuming he's had his hand when it comes to the Nelt Boys, or the guy who, you know, is like the animal whisperer and stuff like that. Tfue was like a big milestone, something like that for him, for a kid growing up the way that he did, and people thinking that he was crazy for just playing video games and running SOAR and, you know, wanted to be a part of FaZe and stuff like that, probably thought it was stupid. So for him to be able to go from that, like right now, Tfue was like the peak, but he was able to create and help assist him to do that and to be a part of FaZe and help create FaZe into this amazing thing that what it is. Tfue leaving one thing, but trying to tarnish what FaZe represents, it makes me bothered. So I can't imagine when it makes like the owners of FaZe, the guys who were there from the beginning, what it makes them feel like. That's, to me, that's like the martial arts school, the dojo. So all my martial arts skills come from my dad. Imagine that like my dad is offering me more money in this huge position, and I can give you all this and it'll all be great. But then I'm like, oh, you know what? This other school may give me an opportunity to make a little bit more. So that would be one thing, to sit down with my dad and talk to him about that and say, this is what I want to pursue, etc. To turn around and then slander him and slander the dojo, the thing that helped me develop the skill. Now, yes, I had to work hard and develop this skill, but obviously that's the place where I learned my stuff. Obviously, like, not everybody did martial arts like me or trained as hard as I am, so I'm responsible for my ability, yes, but still, that's this kind of the same thing in terms of loyalty. So I could not imagine that. But I feel like as a FaZe member, as someone who is there from since before, you know, LA, since before even the New York house, I feel like it's important for me to say something and just to, you know, shed some light so you guys can understand the situation from why Ricky's reacting that way. I'm disappointed, to be honest. I'm sad for the situation, the way that it turned out for Ricky and FaZe, and I'm disappointed in Turner that that's how he dealt with it. I hope that he gets what he wants and what he's looking for, you know. I hope that he is successful. Whenever he gets what he wants, whatever that may be, that I hope that he can kind of reset it and make sure that FaZe is not slandered or looked at it in that way, that FaZe is trying to hurt him or whatever. Now that I'm recovered, you know, from that ridiculous thing called pro fighting, I'm going to be getting back into my training, my strength and conditioning and stuff like that, and back into my sparring. So be sure to, you know, see some more videos soon. Leave a like and subscribe. Oos.